Welcome, meta-atheists, those of us who are interested in going beyond debating with theists, those of us who are interested in looking at whether or not debating is effective in bringing about the change we desire, those of us who want to change the rules of the game rather than simply playing the game that has been ineffective for thousands of years. However, while I generally tend to think that debating is by and large a waste of time and we should be focused on other things, it's hard not to get sucked into some of the debating issues. Now, I certainly am not interested in rehashing the same old arguments over and over again, so whenever I do dip into the issues of the debate rather than the meta issues, it will hopefully be something that is novel. I certainly haven't heard the argument I'm about to make anywhere. I actually just spent about an hour trolling through Wikipedia and looking up arguments about the problem of evil and one of the primary Christian responses. So basically this is the way it works. There's the problem of evil. If you've got a supposed God, oh, by the way, I just want to talk a moment about the word supposedly. This really should be maybe in my series about language, but when you're talking about someone or something, like in a criminal situation on the news, they'll say the alleged attacker. They never start referring to the alleged attacker as the attacker, because doing so creates a bias that the person may be the attacker. Once you refer to that person as the attacker, that's problematic. Well, for those of you who have watched earlier videos of mine, you know that I'm of the position if someone ever asks you, do you believe in God? The response should be, which God, at the very least. But then, say for the sake of argument, the person says Yahweh. And then you start talking about Yahweh, or you agree for the sake of this discussion to use the term God in place of Yahweh, which I personally think you should never do. So say for the sake of argument, you agree to use the term Yahweh. That name should always be preceded by the word allegedly, or the alleged God Yahweh, or this alleged Yahweh allegedly says blah blah blah. Now certainly that can become burdensome, but it's very important. That's why newscasters never get lazy. Every single time the alleged perpetrator allegedly stole the money. Okay, enough on that. I should maybe do a video on that. But back to the idea of free will. So one of these primary defenses against the problem of evil is the idea that, well, God has to give us free will, which is a bunch of crap anyway, but let's just presume for the sake of argument that that does have to happen. In order for the whole master plan to work, humans have to have free will. But then Christians will say that we have free will. Well, I take issue with that. We don't have free will. We can't do whatever we want. We are limited by a whole range of things. If nothing else, our physical limitations. I would like to fly. I can't grow wings and fly, so my will is limited. Now, I don't believe you can have limited free will. If it's limited, it's not free. And then you can carry this sort of to a logical conclusion, which is, given that this supposed Yahweh supposedly limited our free will and still can have his needs met, why couldn't he limit our free will a little bit more and still have his needs met? It's just like we do with our own kids. You enable them to make mistakes, but not deadly ones. You give them free will to a certain degree, and you can still find out if your kid is going to do the right or wrong thing without letting them push the other kid off the cliff. You can see if they want to and if they're going to, and then you intercede. You don't actually need to let the kid go off the cliff. So you can give your own child free will up to the point where the damage is going to be done. But that's really just a follow-on the main idea of this, which is that humans do not have free will, which to me is self-evident in the fact that we can't do whatever we want. And if one of the main ways that Christians explain the problem of evil is that we have free will, their argument has just evaporated. Anyway, that's it. Sorry to get into one of the issues instead of staying at the meta issues, but like I said, it's novel. I haven't heard it before. I figured I'd throw it out there.